Phil Heath recently announced that he's returning to the bodybuilding stage at the 2020 Mr. Olympia. The question on everybody's mind now is, how does the current champion, Brandon Curry, stack up against the 7-time champion? In this video, I'm going to break down 3 ways that Brandon could win, 3 ways Phil could win, and 3 ways each of them could lose. I've also got a wild card scenario in mind that if you're a fan of the sport, you probably already know what that's going to be. So stick around to the end of the video and we'll discuss that. Welcome back, guys. I'm Kato Carter, and on this channel I discuss everything bodybuilding. That includes my own personal bodybuilding journey, training tips, as well as bodybuilding current events, like this video you're watching right now. So if you're new here and want to follow along with that stuff, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So at the Olympia, the champ comes out last. So I think it's only fair that we start this comparison with Phil. He is a 7-time Mr. Olympia, but this time around, he is the challenger, not the champion. So let's get it kicked off. Reason 1 of how Phil wins. Because he's Phil Heath. He is a 7-time Mr. Olympia, like I keep saying. He is a guaranteed Hall of Fame bodybuilder. He's got that legacy behind him. So when he comes back on that stage, everyone is going to be looking at him in that light. They're going to be looking at him in the lens of 7-time Hall of Fame bodybuilder. They're going to be looking at him as returning to the stage after losing in 2018. They're going to be trying to stack him up as best they can against everybody else. So he's going to get more looks because of that. It's just human nature. You know, whether it's fair or not is beside the point. You know, if everyone knows that he's been away and he's got something to prove, so they're going to be looking at that. Reason number 2, Phil wins. He's fixed his stomach issues. He's been away for a while. He's had the surgery that he needed. I don't think that Phil would allow himself to step back on that stage, or would have announced that he's stepping back on stage, if he hadn't fixed that issue. That is something that I think if he's got people in his camp that are really truly trying to make sure that he puts his best package forward, they're going to tell him if that stomach doesn't look right. So if Phil's fixed that stomach, then he stands a very good chance of getting number 8. Way number 3 that Phil wins. He's fresh. He hasn't competed all of last year. He took some time off from training to recover from the surgery. So his body hasn't had the rigors of a contest prep or heavy, ridiculous off-season training to put on some size. So I think that Phil will have just an overall fresher look due to that, and a Phil Heath that has fixed his stomach and has that fresh muscle look to it. I think he stands a really good chance of winning this contest. So let's switch veins. Let's switch over to how Phil loses the Olympia. Reason 1, he's got an injury. That is pretty inevitable for anyone's career. If you injure yourself, there's no telling how that injury is going to look on stage. Now, we're not talking about minor injuries, you know, things that you, like little tweaks and twinges that you work around in your training. We're talking about, you know, major things like he's torn a muscle and it's pretty obvious on stage. Don't think I've heard of any injuries, severe injuries, since he's been off, but that is a way that he could lose. Reason number 2 that Phil loses: pressure. The pressure of the return, the pressure of number 8, the pressure of just, your own self-doubt on whether you can still do this again. We're talking about elite champions, and we're talking about Phil Heath, so I'm sure that these are things that he can overcome, but it is something that if it does get to him, he could lose this contest because of it. Reason number 3 that Phil loses: his stomach. Just like if he fixed his stomach, that could cause him to win the competition. If he still hasn't fixed his stomach, then he stands a very good chance of falling down a placing or 2 again, just like when he lost. There's even already been a picture circulating where people are talking about, oh no, his stomach is out. He didn't fix the issue. Phil gut Heath. It's happening again. Like I said before, I don't really think that this is going to be something that he would let himself have again on stage. But you never know. If it's off, it's off. So now we're going to switch over to the champ. How does Brandon Curry win number 2? The first reason is extra crispy, KFC extra crispy conditioning. Last year, I think Brandon was a little bit criticized because of conditioning. I think there were some interviews with Ronnie Coleman and Dorian Yates that everybody was talking about, and those 2 guys, one of their critiques was the conditioning. They said that Brandon looked like they would have looked, several weeks out from the show. So he needs to bring in that extra level of conditioning to this show to really squash that from last year, but also just crush everyone else. His pretty lines and shape combined with extra crispy conditioning, he's going to be hard to stand next to on that stage. The second reason that Brandon would win would be his legs. If he's managed to put even more size on those legs and improve them even further than he did last year, then lights out. I think Brandon knows the formula now because, he saw what he brought to the stage last year. So if he's continued with that very same formula and has put a little bit more size on those legs so that it's not even as much of a conversation as it was, not just last year, but in the early parts of his career, then he shuts that door on everyone else. And the third reason Brandon would win is the same way anybody would win a bodybuilding show, just more size. If you take Brandon's lines and add that crispy conditioning, like I said before, and improved legs, and just magnify it by another 5, 6, 7 pounds, God, I'd like to see it. I want to see it. I hope that happens. That would be an amazing sight because Brandon already, like I said, has those pretty lines. So you add a little bit more size to that and keep those lines and get those legs big and add that extra crispy conditioning. I'm excited for this Olympia. I'm ready. So now, how Brandon could lose this Olympia. Just like Phil, the number one reason is injury. He hurts himself, major injury, and it shows up on stage, game over. I think this day and age, you're less likely to keep your title with injury than back in the day. You know, people talk about Dorian and Franco Colombo and how they won Olympias with glaring injuries on stage. But I think after Phil and that stomach issue, I don't think that judges are going to allow that to happen again. So if Brandon has a major glaring injury, then he loses. Reason number 2 that Brandon would lose: no Kuwait. With the current pandemic going on, he can't get over there. It's just the way the world is right now. And I feel that Kuwait was so good for Brandon because he was able to avoid distractions. He had a really good routine, and he had guys that weren't afraid to tell him like it is in his corner. If Brandon can't get that same level of routine here, and he's got people in his corner that maybe are a little bit too yes man, then I think that could affect his conditioning, could affect his training, could affect his state of mind going into the show. You know, he really needs to bring whatever he had over there that was the secret formula to wherever he's training now at his gym, and make this the best prep possible despite that. If he can't, then that's another door that is left open that somebody else can walk through. The third reason, just like Phil, is the pressure. If Brandon allows the pressure of being a one-time Mr. Olympia and coming back to defend his title get to him, or the fact that Phil is a 7-time Mr. Olympia and coming back, gunning for it, as well as the wild card scenario, which I'm going to get to in a little bit, because that wild card can put some pressure on everybody as well. If he lets any of that get to him, then again he's allowed the door to be open for not as good a prep, stress, and all those things really truly can affect your look up on stage. So finally, the wild card scenario. Thank you guys for watching this far. Again, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button down below. So the wild card scenario, go ahead and say it. Type it down in the comments below before I say it. Flex Lewis. We are hyped about Flex Lewis coming to the Open. This guy, just like Phil, is a legend. He's going to be a Hall of Fame bodybuilder, and personally, myself being a smaller bodybuilder, he's somebody that I look up to in the sport for what he's done. I try to model my own, training and style like his. Not, like mimicking him or anything, but, just a role model in the sport, because he's achieved a lot, in the sport, and outside the sport. But Flex, I think, gets a little bit of crap leading into this Olympia, because people say that, oh, he was a 212 guy, he's shorter, he's not going to stack up well against these taller guys. Well, guys, I want you to think back to the last Olympia, and I'm going to put some pictures in here of Flex, or not Flex, but Horthy and Brandon standing next to each other. And I want you to look at how tall they are. Now I want you to look at the show where Flex and Horthy went up against each other, and Flex won that show. They're really not that, there's not that much of a difference in height there. I think they're going to actually compare a little bit better than everyone thinks that they will. Flex also is known for conditioning. He doesn't have a problem with conditioning. He shows up on stage crispy. I know people say that may have been due to having to push down to the 212, but we've seen pictures, granted they weren't stage pictures, but we have seen pictures where Flex is, several weeks out and in that, 220 range, and he's already peeled. So add more size onto that and put that on stage next to people, and Flex wins this show. I think he is complete. He's got no missing links. All he has to do, or all he had to do this offseason, was add size onto what he already has and bring that to the stage. And if he does that, I think both Phil and Brandon are going to have a tough time with Flex. So that's it, guys. What do you think? Does Brandon win or lose? Does Phil win or lose? Does Flex win or lose? Is there someone other than Flex that I should have mentioned as a wild card that could come in here and upset the balance? Remember, guys, because of what's going on in the world, the pandemic, a lot of these guys probably aren't going to be able to get over here. So we really have to work with who we know is already in the United States or Canada and can get over here to actually do the show. Your Big Ramis and your William Bonacks, they might not be able to do this Olympia. So we got to keep that in mind too when we're thinking about who shows up and who's going to do damage and this and that. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of this. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this one.